have one that's P1, CD1, rezoning, 1401 Comox Street. And before we move into this particular one, I've been advised that clerk has a request from an individual to speak actually to P1. But as this item is a referral to public hearings, as you know, we do not hear from speakers during the referral phase, only at the public hearing. So that individual has been advised that they will be able to speak at a public hearing, but not here. And councillors wanting to speak to this, of course, are speaking not to the substance of this item, but rather to the referral itself and to the advisability. And basically, councillors can ask questions of staff about the advisability, about the process, but not about the substance of the report itself. So with that, Councillor Carr, you held this, so if you would like to be first to speak to the theatre press tonight, please. And Councillor Jan, if you'd like to follow up that. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Yes, I did want to speak to this issue, and I want to speak to it. I mean, I understand that, that there's already been a motion passed that, given the community plans that are going on in neighborhoods, that a project in the pipe, so to speak, can be considered, despite the fact that a plan is going on. But I think it's ill-advised to proceed. I wish I could just say it based on the degree to which there is conflict in the community on this, but that's not the point, and I know that here it's really about whether this report has sufficient information in it, and accurate enough information in it to be able to proceed to public hearing. And I do have some questions regarding some very specific things in the report on that raise concern for me. And by the way, thank you for the memo that we got around the additional public input. I am disturbed by the use of the logo in that process, but I thank you for the memo and the reflection that 95% of those that you reported on were against this project. My first question has to, I have questions in 5 areas, and I know I have limited time. I'm going to just give you the 5 areas so you know what those areas are. The first is around the community facility. There were 3,500 square feet in the original proposal. Now it talks about community facility on page 5. I'm not clear at all as to what the size is of that, etc., and the intent of that. My second question has to do with affordability. On page 14.
Councillor Carr, sorry, you can't get into the substance of the report. You can just discuss the advisability and ask questions as to whether it should be referred or not about the substance of the report. That has to wait. Everything you're asking now are excellent questions, but they need to be asked at the public hearing, you see.
Yes, Mr. Deputy Mayor, if I'm not confident that the report includes enough information to be able to refer.
Then you would vote against the referral.
Or I could ask to refer. I could move a motion to refer it back to staff for further consultation and further details regarding some very specific things.
Sure, but not around those substance. You can just say that you would like to refer it back to staff. But this isn't to get into the report at all. This is merely to talk about the referral. I'm sorry, those are the rules that we have to live with in council.
I'd like to move a referral back to staff for more consultation on issues of massing, affordability, community space, and the potential impacts on the Comox Greenway.
Okay, thanks. That's good. So we have an amendment. Could you help me with that, clerk? Please. Anyone wish to speak to this amendment to the referral?
Can
you send them to the clerk?
I don't have it typed.
Oh, okay.
for more consultation and details on issues of massing, the mass of the project, affordability, community space, and potential impacts on the Comox Greenway.
Thank you. We got those now?
Would you like me to speak to it?
No. We'll go to an amendment to, but you can speak to it, but you can't go into the substance of those reasons. We're not getting into the substance of...
I'll speak at the end of the queue, thank you.
Okay. So, Councillor Reimer.
Respect, it's hard to speak to a motion without knowing why the viewers prefer. So, it's an interesting fact.
I know.
But perhaps I could get clarity on the wording of the motion then, at least, if not the reasons for it. Vancouver, can you read me back the motion? I thought I understood it, but there seems to be an extra word added in the second version.
You have to understand here that we're really walking on a funny line, and we can't get into the substance, but she wants to make a referral with some reason, so...
I appreciate that, but the councillor has said that she will speak to her reasons, just not before we have a chance to speak.
No, I will want to
Okay, I would be happy to. He said no.
It's the rules.
I'm
It's
sorry.
the rules.
Did you not say you were going to speak at the end of the debate?
Because he ruled that I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry,
He
Your
ruled that I
Honor, I'm
couldn't
sorry
speak.
that we don't have a discussion about
Okay,
it.
perhaps I could at least get the most recent motion wording. Okay.
That the report be referred back to staff for more consultation and details on issues of massing, affordability, community space, and potential impacts on the Comox Greenway.
Okay, well, the addition of the word details, although I perhaps just missed it in the first version, I've got to admit, it's unclear to me what Councillor Carr wants out of this, and in the absence of knowing that, details are something that staff could bring to the public hearing, whereas consultation is something that would have to be done after those details existed, presumably, because you want all the information on the table. And I'm not really sure what details she's looking for, so I don't feel that I'm prepared to monkey around with a legal process based on the information I have available to me. So I'll be voting against the motion or the amendment.
Councillor Jane?
This is the main queue. You're back on the amendment.
All right. On the amendment, please. Could you put me on the amendment here, please? Councillor Alford.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm is on? Sorry, my head. I get it. So I'm not quite sure why there's some confusion. I think there's a lot of questions that we need to address before this goes to public hearing. West End is going through a community plan process. We haven't approved the new STIR project yet. So to me, there's a lot of reasons why it shouldn't be going to a public hearing yet, and so I support Councillor Carr's motion without detail because I don't want to get in trouble from the Deputy Mayor. So I support it.
Thank you, Councillor. You're never in trouble. So, Councillor Carr.
Yeah, simply, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Simply put, I do not have enough information. I cited the topics. I do not have enough information to be able to vote in favor of this report going to, and proposal going to public hearing.
So you're in favor of your amendment?
You know, I'm caught in an awkward situation, not being able to talk to the substantive nature by your ruling, and yet in the
Not my
substantive
ruling,
nature.
Councillor Carr, it's the rules of the council.
I have lack of sufficient information in the area of massing in terms of the justification for why this is the largest massed project to date in the West End, as per the report statement in Appendix E. I have lack of information.
Order, Mr. Chair. Councillor Carr is breaking the rules again. I would suggest, through the chair, that she simply say that she doesn't have enough information. She's now entering into the substance of it, which is, as I understood, the 3 years I've been on council, you do a public hearing. And at this point, I believe she can ask questions of staff. She has provided staff with questions. They can bring that back in a memo or whatever she wants, or at the public hearing. But at this point, she's wondering, and I caution Councillor Carr, that you could be disallowing yourself from even being on this public hearing because you're entering into the substance of the discussion. So, you know, this happened to me once when former Councillor Anton warned me very kindly and said, if you go any further, you're going to be disallowed from speaking on this. So I'm just cautioning you now so that you could, if you wish to continue on this project, then I would ask you to...
Point of information?
Yes, please.
Yes. I'm wondering how you would counsel me to speak in support of my motion, other than simply just saying I don't have enough information, to the degree to which then I can garner more support from my fellow councillors.
Can we get clarification on this ruling? And I'd rather hear it sit down.
And perhaps I can offer some help, Mr. Deputy Mayor. The concern that Councillor Jang has raised is that a councillor does not want to be seen to be particularly of an opinion on a rezoning application because they're going to be hearing the application in sort of the judicial sort of form, and that they'll have to go into that hearing with an open mind. Now, if the councillor is of the view that there is insufficient information in the report to consider the application at this time, they should vote for the referral back to staff for an additional public process and additional information. If, however, a councillor feels that there is sufficient information in the report and understanding that there's the opportunity for supplementary information to be provided at the public hearing in that process by staff, then they should refer this application on to the public hearing. So that would be my advice to council in how they deal with this motion of referral at this time.
Point of information again. So is it my understanding that people simply say, I don't have enough information, I do have enough information, end of story? Is that the process?
And vote, not to refer or to refer.
All right.
We
Thank you for that clarification.
we don't go into the substance at all of any referral motion, but you can vote against it, and maybe the majority of council will vote against it.
Thank you.
Councillor Deal on the motion to refer. The amendment.
No, I don't mean to be on that, please, sorry.
Councillor Affleck, you've spoken.
I just wanted that same question that Councillor Carr, would that be asked of staff that you just asked as opposed to the mayor?
I think it was answered. Okay, so let's vote on the amendment. All those in favor? Councillor, all those opposed? Opposed to Councillor Mapes, Councillor Jane, Councillor Deal, Councillor Reimer, Councillor Payne, Councillor Deputy Mayor Stevenson. Motion's defeated. Back to the main motion, please. Councillor Jane.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I do have some questions for staff on the memo that was brought forward. It says here, I find this a little disturbing, and the reason I'm asking these questions is because it does pertain to whether or not I will agree to this going to a public hearing at this time. We've already heard from one councillor that 95% of the people said they're against it based on this memo. But as I look at this postcard that was sent out, it looks like a fake, an absolute fraud to me. I mean, can you say, for example, if you look at the letter type here, what is that font on that? What is the font that we use in the city of Vancouver? Calibri. And this is Calibri. We have a City of Vancouver logo on here. We also have Ms. Hose's email address here, and as I gather, none of these things were approved by the city. Is that correct? This postcard is not ours.
No.
Okay, so this postcard was invented by somebody and distributed to about 1,000 or more people, and people answered it. Is that your understanding?
That is correct, yes.
And so we see here as well that we have name, and we sent this in as optional, so we have no way of verifying whether or not this is absolutely true or a person could have made hundreds of these in their basement.
That's true, yes.
Are we, it's pretty scary actually. We have seen other instances of this type of behavior. For example, I recall the Norquay plant has not been the case where folks been stuffing ballot boxes, if you like, with all sorts of fake, or certainly not city postcards or votes.
Thank you, Councillor. Kevin McNaney, Assistant Director of Planning. Yes, we did have an incident in Norquay where there were a number of submissions to the process that appeared to be irregular, really not consistent with the rest of the feedback that we had heard over time.
Okay. So do we have any more information on where these fakes may have come from?
The postcards were distributed by community members in the West End. My understanding is that they did have stands set up throughout the West End and approached people to fill them out for them. A gentleman then dropped them off at City Hall. I believe that their intent was good. I'm not sure that they realized sort of the enormity of the issue of the city logo on there.
Yes.
Perhaps I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but
I don't know. Using the city typeface as well is a little creepy. It's certainly my view. Okay. And we have seen other instances in the West End, well, not the West End, in other rezoning applications in which, for example, on the rise recently, we had instances in which folks were trying to mislead council with pictures, for example, and I recall very clearly showing container trucks and all this and having them masqueraded as delivery trucks, and pictures of Broadway and Commercial Drive as Watson Street, I believe. It's a good thing I knew my geography, otherwise I could have been misled. So in your opinion, I mean, not opinion, so you're absolutely sure this is not City of Vancouver sponsored in any way?
it's the standard correspondence that we received as part of input into the rezoning application from the community.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question to staff is about the neighborhood greening element on page 11. And there's obviously been a lot of concern about lots of green space in the neighborhood. And the way I read this is the developers offered $50,000 above and beyond what would be required in the planning process. But there's no staff statement about that. Will that be clarified by the time we come back to public hearing if it's approved, or are we just going to leave that hanging out there, or are we going to take the money? I guess that's my question.
If you'd like, we could come back to council or to public hearing with more information, or with our colleagues to provide a little bit more detail around that.
I think that would be helpful, because it would be strange not to have a position on that, and perhaps strange still not to accept contributions from the Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes. Councillor Beal.
Yes, thank you very much. Speaking about heritage, there are some comments in the report, and to send it to public hearing, I think there's been some talk about heritage. Perhaps at that time, staff could bring back another piece of information about heritage, which would be whether or not the church ever applied for heritage status for their 1983 building. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beal. Councillor Hayes.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think heritage isn't based on years, by the way, Councillor Beal. It's based on by a sarcastic 1983 comment there. I just have one question for you with regards to the report, which I think is lacking, is details on what is affordability and how do we define affordability. If we're comparing apples to apples, or we're saying these will be affordable, we need a definition of what is affordable housing in the city, and I think that's lacking significantly in this report. And comparing it to real estate as opposed to me is apples to oranges. I want to see when we're talking about affordability, what does the city define as affordability, and how does that fit into this development? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Affleck. Councillor Reimer.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. A couple questions. One was on the memo, the May 14th one. Thank you for getting that turned around so quickly. Unlike Councillor Jay, I mean, I am quite concerned about somebody apparently choosing to mislead the public, either intentionally or unintentionally, by using the city's logo. But notwithstanding that, the input is valid in so much as the public community members went and collected it. If we can track down who did it, I want to do that now that we've been sort of harping on the issue around the logo. What I'd be most interested in is the demographic. I mean, I understand that there's numbers here about who lives in the West End, but I'm interested in, I mean, for example, 80% of people who live in the West End are renters. For this to be statistically useful, then 80% of the respondents or thereabout would need to be renters, and I don't know what I'm assuming based on the card we don't know anything about that, but it'd be useful to know. The other question was, and I think this would be relatively straightforward in regards to the card, I don't write surveys for a living, but I've certainly participated in a few and read a lot. The questions seem a little leading, so it'd be useful to have a professional opinion on the validity of answers that come from questions like this. Because I do want to honor their input, but I'm a little challenged in the absence of more information about it. The second piece was supplementary information for public hearing. So further to Councillor Meg's point, somewhat, I'm kind of a visual thinker, so I was trying to read through the report and kind of, because we have the view of the building in the report, but to actually see how the on-space setbacks would create open space on-site, and then also this the green space that may or may not show up, what that would look like in relation to the open space on site. So something that sort of gave us a visual understanding. The model may do that, but if there's a way to get a PowerPoint slide that shows that, it would be helpful for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reimer. Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. The details, I have one point that I've already raised earlier that I would like to see more information spelled on the report is the new community facility. Lack of detail, unless you have that answer now, it doesn't have it, okay?
Yeah, I can actually answer that question. There is no community facility proposed as part of the current proposal. There have been a number of revisions, and in the second version of the proposal, we were looking at a community facility, but that is no longer part of the proposal.
Okay, perhaps there should be a correction on page 5 then, because it refers to it, the new community facility in one of the.
Any further comment on that?
Yes, actually.
No, staff, sorry. Any further comment on that?
Oh, just for clarification, through the chair, the next paragraph down talks about the subsequent revision where the community facility was removed. So
okay.
It is correct in the report that the community facility was there in that version of the application. The subsequent revision was removed.
Thanks. I thought that was the case. That's why I just wanted.
Thank you. Regarding the statement on page 14 about the determination by the city manager that this is affordable housing, it's page 14. I'm finding it hard to reconcile, and maybe some more information is needed in terms of explaining how the rents that are suggested on that page and in the table can jive with the average renter income of $34,000, which is in a previous section, which if you do the math around 30% would be about $930 a month. So those seem inconsistent. And especially matching it to the market rent as well. The market rent itself is lower than also the amount specified for the average rent. So again, I don't understand how the decision of affordability was reached. Regarding the mass, from a table in Appendix D, page 2, there's a comparison of other buildings in the mass, and this at 7.19 FSR looks to be the largest in all of the projects that are listed there. I don't find in the report any justification or explanation of why that mass is recommended. And finally, in terms of the Comox Greenway, and also in follow-up to Councillor Meg's question with the potential Broughton greening, I didn't understand what that greening at 50,000 would be, how it might and the development might impact on the Comox Greenway, which is a process that's going through the whole planning process. Traffic, access, egress, etc. No, I didn't find any details. Clarification on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Garrett. That's excellent. We got through all of that. Would someone like to move a motion? A second. Councillor Deal moves. Councillor Jang seconds. I would just like to say that I think that it's important to refer this on. This is the mechanism we have for dealing with any of these. We do have a planning process going on now in 3 areas of the city, the West End being one, and that'll be a 2-year process. So anything that's already in the works can continue on. The rest we're asking that we have that we hold back till the planning is done. But obviously, anything that is moves ahead will be in consideration. But at the end of the day, council has the right to say no. We don't want this. Just because it goes ahead doesn't mean it's going ahead. But it does mean that now this will move to a public hearing. The public will be able to say what they feel about this in comparison to previously. They'll be able to ask all the questions that are being asked. The councillors will be asked all the questions. To me, this is the fairest way of going ahead for everybody, just to try and push it back to staff again for some reason or other wouldn't be helpful at all. This legally must move ahead, and this has been in the works for a long time. But that doesn't mean that we will like it. We didn't like the last one. We may not like this one. And all of us will have an opportunity to thoroughly vent every question that we have, to get every speaker we want out to give every point that they want to make. And then we'll make the best judgment for the West End and for Vancouver. So I'm very much in favor of this referral, and I call for the vote. All in favor of the referral? I thought we all had our, that basically. All in favor? All those opposed? Councillor Carr, Councillor Ball, you're opposed. Councillor Ball and Councillor Carr. The motion passes.